"Human, it's been over a month and you haven't deflowered me," she said as she undressed. The grand hall of Lyris Prime was silent in a way that made even the stars outside seem to pause. Crystal walls reflected the soft light of distant suns, and banners of ancient houses hung unmoving in the air. At the center of the hall stood a human named Elias Ward. He wore a simple uniform, clean but plain. No medals, no gold. No symbols of rank beyond a small earth emblem on his chest. Compared to the towering alien nobles around him, he looked small, fragile, ordinary. And yet, every eye in the hall watched him. Across from Elias stood Princess Seraphine of House Vale. She was tall, her posture straight, her silver eyes steady. Slowly, deliberately, she removed the ceremonial mantle from her shoulders and placed it on the polished floor. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Removing the mantle meant something ancient. It meant surrendering royal protection during a formal claim. It meant vulnerability. It meant trust. Her voice broke the silence. "Human," she said, calm but edged with emotion. "It has been over one cycle. You were chosen. You were invited into the bond. And yet you have not completed the rite." The elders shifted uncomfortably. This was not how such matters were discussed, not publicly, not with outsiders watching. Elias did not move. "I have not," he replied quietly. Seraphine took another step forward, removing the light armor from her arms. Not in shame, not in seduction. It was the ancient way, stripping away titles, defenses, and power before asking for union. "Why?" she asked. Any other species would have claimed the honor within hours. Elias met her gaze. His eyes held no hunger, no fear, only resolve. "Because where I come from," he said, "choice matters more than ceremony." A murmur spread through the hall. The Lyris Empire did not understand humans well. They were new to the stars. A small world with strange rules. They were known for endurance, for stubborn courage, and for a strange moral code that confused older civilizations. Seraphine clenched her hands. "The bond is not ownership," she said. "It is shared duty, shared future." "I know," Elias said. "That's why I waited." The memory of the first meeting burned in his mind. A month earlier, he had arrived on Lyris Prime as part of a diplomatic escort. Humans were minor players in the Galactic Council, often overlooked, often underestimated. Elias had not expected to be noticed at all. Then the princess had spoken his name, chosen him, not for power, not for politics, but for something the Lyris elders called steadfastness. They believed Elias carried an ancient compatibility with their royal line, a rare harmony of will and restraint. To them, the bond was sacred destiny. To Elias, it was a life-altering promise. He remembered standing alone in his quarters that night, staring at the stars, realizing he could never treat such a thing lightly. Back in the hall, Seraphine's voice softened. "You think I feel no doubt?" she asked. "You think removing my rank before you is easy?" Elias took one step forward, just one. "I waited," he said, "because I needed to know you were choosing me, not because of prophecy or pressure or tradition." The elders stiffened. That was dangerous talk. Seraphine studied him in silence. No one had ever spoken to her that way, not warriors, not nobles, not rivals. "You insult our ways," one elder hissed. Elias turned slowly. "No," he said, "I respect them enough to take them seriously." That was the moment the hall truly fell silent. Humans were not known for defying empires politely, yet Elias did exactly that. Seraphine straightened. "You believe restraint is strength," she said. "Yes," Elias answered. "Sometimes the greatest power is knowing when not to act." A strange expression crossed her face, something like understanding. The Lyris Empire valued conquest, assertion, and destiny. Humans valued consent, patience, and earned trust. Two civilizations standing on opposite edges of the same truth. "You could have claimed status beyond measure," she said quietly. "You could have gained fleets, protection, glory." Elias shook his head. "I wanted to earn it," he replied. Outside the hall, distant stars flared as a fleet arrived, envoys from rival powers. They had come to witness the bond, to see a human bow and accept what was offered. They did not expect hesitation. They did not expect refusal. And they certainly did not expect the princess to lower herself before a human who would not take what was freely given. Seraphine inhaled deeply. "Then tell me," she said, voice steady now, "what must happen for you to step forward?" Elias answered without pause. "When you stand before me as Seraphine, not as princess." Slowly, deliberately, she removed the final symbol of her rank, a glowing crest from her chest, and placed it beside the mantle. A collective breath was held across the galaxy. She stood as herself. No armor, no crown, no command, only choice. Elias bowed, not in submission but in respect. And in that moment the observers realized something terrifying and wondrous. Humans did not conquer by force. They conquered by changing the meaning of power. And the galaxy had just begun to notice. The silence in the grand hall did not break quickly. It stretched, heavy and tense, like a held breath that refused to escape. Seraphine stood without her royal symbols, and Elias stood before her with nothing but his words and his calm. Around them the elders whispered among themselves. Some were angry, some were afraid, others were deeply confused. No one in living memory had seen a chosen bond delayed by choice. From the observation balcony above, envoys from other empires watched closely. They had come to witness a simple ceremony. What they saw instead was something dangerous, a human refusing destiny, an alien princess allowing it. The first elder finally spoke. His voice echoed across the hall. "This delay weakens us," he said. "The bond stabilizes alliances. It strengthens bloodlines, it secures the future." Elias turned to face him. "Then your future is fragile," Elias said calmly, "if it cannot survive patience." A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. Humans were supposed to be grateful, quiet, careful, not honest. Seraphine raised her hand and the elders fell silent. Her eyes never left Elias. "You asked me to stand as myself," she said. "I have done that." "Yes," Elias replied, "and now I must do the same." He reached to his chest and removed the earth emblem from his uniform. It was small and worn, but he placed it beside her symbols with care. "I stand here not as an envoy," he said, "not as a representative, but as a man." That action carried weight the observers did not understand at first. Humans did not remove symbols lightly. They treated identity as something earned, not given. Seraphine felt something shift inside her, not fear, not doubt, respect. The elders were not pleased. "If the bond is not completed," one elder warned, "the rival empires will see weakness." "They already do," Elias said. "That's why they're watching." The truth of that settled hard. Beyond the walls of Lyris Prime, fleets waited. Some pretended to be allies. Others did not hide their hunger. The Empire's traditions had always been its shield, until now. Seraphine turned away from the elders and walked toward the open balcony. Stars filled the sky beyond, cold and endless. "You come from a smaller world," she said quietly. "You have fewer ships, fewer weapons. Why do you speak without fear?" Elias joined her at the edge. "Because fear doesn't change facts," he said. "And facts are simple. You are strong, but you rely on tradition more than trust." She looked at him sharply. "And humans rely on trust." "We rely on earned trust," Elias corrected. "That's the difference." Below them, ships from rival powers adjusted their formations. Sensors flickered. Data flowed. A signal interruption swept the hall. One of the aides rushed forward. "Princess," the aide said urgently, "a delegation from the Korath Dominion requests immediate audience." The Korath were not diplomats. They were conquerors wrapped in polite words. Seraphine closed her eyes briefly. "They would not come unless they sensed weakness," she said. "They came because they saw hesitation," Elias replied. "They think hesitation means fear." The princess turned to him. "Does it?" she asked. Elias shook his head. "No," he said, "it means control." The Koreth delegation arrived moments later, tall, sharp-featured beings clad in dark armor. Their leader smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We observed an interruption," the Koreth envoy said smoothly, "a delay in your sacred bond." "This is an internal matter," an elder snapped. The envoy's smile widened. "Internal matters," he said, "often affect external stability." Seraphine said nothing. She waited. Elias stepped forward instead. "The bond is not delayed," he said. "It is being honored." The envoy looked him up and down. "You are the human," he said. "Interesting species, known for sudden violence when cornered." "Also known for restraint," Elias replied. "When it matters." The envoy laughed softly. "If restraint mattered," he said, "your species would not survive among the stars." Elias met his gaze. "Yet here we are." That simple statement unsettled the room more than any threat. The envoy's eyes narrowed. "Our intelligence suggests the bond strengthens your empire's defenses," he said. "A delay suggests uncertainty." Seraphine finally spoke. "There is no uncertainty," she said, "only understanding." The envoy tilted his head. "Then complete it," he said. "Now." The demand was clear, a challenge disguised as advice. Elias shook his head. "No," he said. Gasps echoed. The envoy's tone hardened. "You refuse before witnesses." "Yes," Elias answered, "because the bond will be chosen freely or not at all." The Koreth envoy stared at him, then laughed openly. "You gamble your empire on sentiment," he said to Seraphine. "A mistake." Elias stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. "You mistake sentiment for weakness," he said. "Humans learned long ago that forced unity breaks when tested." The envoy studied him carefully now. "And what happens," he asked, "when we test you?" Elias did not raise his voice. "Then," he said, "you learn why patience is dangerous when paired with resolve." That was when the sensors screamed. Multiple Koreth ships shifted into attack formation. The hall erupted in chaos. Elders shouted orders. Guards moved into position. Defensive systems powered up. Seraphine turned to Elias, eyes sharp. "This is the moment," she said. "Will you stand?" Elias did not hesitate. "Yes," he said, "but not as your bond." He reached for a console and opened a secure channel. "Earth Command," he said calmly. "This is Elias Ward, initiate demonstration protocol." There was a pause, then a reply. "Protocol acknowledged." The stars outside flickered. Human ships, small, unassuming, previously dismissed, shifted positions with precise movement. Not aggressive, controlled. Energy readings spiked not in weapons but in shields, advanced, layered, adaptive. The Koreth envoy's smile vanished. "What is this?" he demanded. Elias looked at Seraphine. "This," he said, "is why humans wait." Across the hall, realization dawned. Humans had not rushed to bond. They had prepared. And the galaxy was about to learn what restraint truly meant. The stars above Lyris Prime no longer looked calm. Lines of energy crossed the dark like silent warnings. The Koreth fleet had stopped advancing, but their weapons remained charged. The human ships held position, shields glowing with layered patterns that shifted and adapted in real time. Inside the grand hall, no one spoke. Fear had entered the room, but it did not belong to the humans. The Koreth envoy stared at the tactical display, his sharp confidence cracking. He had expected panic, confusion, desperation. Instead, the humans were waiting. "Your ships are outnumbered," the envoy said, forcing steadiness into his voice. "Yes," Elias replied calmly. "And yet you do not retreat." "No," Elias said again. Seraphine watched him closely. In this moment of threat, he did not posture or boast. He stood with quiet certainty, as if this outcome had been planned long before the first insult was spoken. The elders whispered urgently among themselves. "Human vessels lack heavy weapons," one elder muttered. "They lack visible weapons," another corrected. Outside, the first Koreth cruiser fired a probing energy strike. The human shield absorbed it, not explosively, not violently. It bent, adjusted, and returned to full strength, Murmurs of disbelief spread through the hall. The Korath envoy's eyes widened. Adaptive shielding, he said slowly. Impossible at that scale. Not impossible, Elias said, just expensive and patient. Seraphine turned to him sharply. You built this without announcing it, Elias nodded. Humans learned early, he said, that if you announce your strength, someone tries to take it. The Korath fleet repositioned. Another strike followed, stronger this time. Again the shields held, but now something else happened. The energy dispersed outward, harmlessly redirected into empty space. The Korath commander's voice cut in over open channels, sharp with anger. You redirect our fire, the commander snarled. You mock us. No, Elias replied calmly over the channel. We protect what we stand beside. That statement echoed across every listening system. Seraphine felt it settle deep within her chest. Not conquest, protection. The elders realized too late what kind of species they had invited into their traditions. The Korath envoy turned back to Seraphine. You place your empire's safety in the hands of an unbonded human, he said. If he withdraws, he will not, Seraphine said firmly. She surprised herself with the certainty of her voice. The envoy laughed bitterly. You trust him already? I trust his restraint, she replied. That word again, restraint. To the Korath, restraint meant weakness. To humans, it meant discipline. The human fleet moved. Not forward, sideways. They placed themselves between the Korath weapons and Lyris Prime, forming a protective arc. No orders were shouted. No urgency showed. They moved like a wall deciding where it would stand. Sensors flared across the hall. Human ships are emitting new energy signatures, an aide reported. What kind? An elder demanded. Stabilization fields, the aide replied. They are reinforcing planetary defenses. The room went silent. They were not defending themselves. They were defending Lyris Prime. Without being bound, without being commanded, the Korath commander cursed openly. This was not agreed upon, he roared. Elias responded calmly. You fired first, he said. We respond responsibly. Seraphine turned to Elias, her voice low. You risk war. Yes, Elias said. But not chaos, she studied him. Humans choose strange hills to stand on, she said. We choose the ones that matter, he replied. The Korath envoy stepped closer, his tone dark. If you force our withdrawal, he warned, we will return in numbers you cannot stop. Elias looked at him steadily. Then we will still be here, he said, still waiting. The envoy faltered. Waiting was not a tactic the Korath understood. The human fleet activated another system. Suddenly, Korath targeting arrays began to fail, not shut down but confused. Signals overlapped, data misaligned, weapons locked onto empty space. Electronic interference, the commander shouted. No, Elias corrected over the channel. Clarification. What? We show you exactly where not to shoot. The Korath commander froze. They were not being jammed. They were being taught. The realization struck the observers like a shockwave. Humans were not fighting to destroy. They were fighting to control. The elders stared at Elias in awe and fear. You could disable them completely, one elder whispered. Yes, Elias said, but then they learn nothing. Seraphine felt her understanding deepen. This was why he waited. This was why he refused to rush the bond. Because power without restraint terrified the galaxy, but power with restraint changed it. The Korath fleet began to withdraw slowly, cautiously, like predators unsure if the prey might turn. The envoy's voice trembled. This changes nothing, he said weakly. Your alliance remains uncertain. Elias looked at Seraphine. Does it? He asked gently. She stepped forward. The alliance is not uncertain, she said clearly. It is becoming honest. The envoy stared at her. You would side with an unbound human over ancient law. She did not hesitate. I would side with one who defends without demanding reward. The Korath envoy said nothing more. His image vanished as the fleet retreated beyond sensor range. Relief swept through the hall, but something else followed, respect. The elders turned to Elias slowly. "You protected our world," one said, "without claim." "Yes," Elias replied. "Because it was right." Seraphine approached him, retrieving her symbols from the floor, but she did not put them on. "You showed them who you are," she said. Elias met her gaze. "I showed them who humans choose to be." Silence settled again, but this time it was different. Not tense, not fearful, expectant. The galaxy had just witnessed something new, a species that could conquer but chose to guard, and the question was no longer whether Elias would complete the bond. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what that bond truly meant. The stars above Lyris Prime slowly returned to their quiet rhythm. The Korath fleet was gone, their shadows fading into the dark. The alarms in the Grand Hall fell silent, replaced by a deep, uncertain calm. No one cheered. No one spoke. What had happened was too large for noise. Elias stood where he was, hands relaxed at his sides. He looked tired now, not weak but human. The kind of tired that comes after holding a line that could not be allowed to break. Seraphine faced the elders. "You saw," she said simply. They had. They had seen a species with fewer ships and smaller weapons stand between an empire and destruction, not because of law, prophecy, or reward, but because of choice. The eldest among them stepped forward slowly. "Human Elias Ward," the elder said, his voice no longer sharp. "You acted without obligation." "Yes," Elias replied. "You defended without claim." "Yes." The elder lowered his head slightly. "Why?" Elias did not answer immediately. He looked out through the crystal wall at the planet below, cities glowing softly. Lives continuing, unaware of how close they had come to fire and ruin. "Because someone had to," he said. That answer carried no pride, only truth. Seraphine walked to stand beside him. "You could have demanded the bond afterward," she said quietly. "No one would have denied you." "I know," Elias said. "But you didn't," she said. "No," he agreed. She studied him for a long moment. "You waited for the galaxy to see who you were," she said, "not who tradition said you should be." Elias met her gaze. "And you waited to choose," he replied, "not because you had to, but because you wanted to." The elders exchanged looks. Something old and rigid was cracking. One of them spoke. "Our laws were built on certainty," the elder said, "on fate and force." "Those laws protected you," Elias said gently. "Until they didn't." Silence followed. Seraphine stepped forward, turning to face the hall. "I will speak plainly," she said. "The bond cannot continue as it was." A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. "It will continue," she added, "as it should have always been." She turned to Elias. "I stand before you again," she said, "not as destiny's answer, not as a symbol, but as myself." She reached down and picked up the crest of her house, but instead of placing it back on her chest, she held it out to him. "I choose you," she said, "not because you were chosen, but because you chose restraint when power was easy." Elias did not take the crest right away. The hall held its breath. "I need to say this clearly," he said, "so there is no confusion." She nodded. "I will not own you," he said, "and you will not own me." "I would never ask that," she replied. "The bond," Elias continued, "must be shared responsibility, shared voice. Shared right to walk away." The elders stiffened. Seraphine did not. "I accept," she said without hesitation. Elias studied her face, searching for doubt. There was none, only resolve. He reached out and accepted the crest. The moment he touched it, the hall's ancient systems responded. Light flowed across the floor, gentle and warm, not commanding, not binding, acknowledging. The bond formed not as a chain but as a bridge. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded something never seen before. A bonding rite that did not spike dominance readings, a union that did not suppress either participant. Two wolves standing side by side, the elders watched in stunned silence. "This is different," one whispered. "Yes," Elias said, "that's the point." The light faded, leaving no mark on either of them except in the way they stood. Together, news spread quickly. Other empires replayed the recordings again and again. Analysts argued, generals scoffed, philosophers listened. Humans had revealed something terrifying. They could fight, they could win, but they preferred not to, and when they did fight it was never for control, it was for protection. The Korath Dominion retreated from contested systems within days, not out of fear of destruction, but fear of being contained. Because humans did not threaten annihilation, they threatened stability. Weeks passed. Lyris Prime changed. Councils opened their doors wider. Elders listened more. Traditions were questioned, not discarded, but examined. Elias did not rule. Seraphine did not command him. They walked the city together, spoke with citizens, listened. Some resisted, most adapted. The galaxy noticed something else too. Human ships stayed, not as conquerors, as guardians. They did not build monuments. They built response networks. They did not demand tribute. They shared systems, and when asked why, humans gave the same answer: because we're already here. One evening, Elias and Seraphine stood on a balcony overlooking the city lights. "You changed us," she said quietly. Elias shook his head. "No," he said. "You let yourselves change," she smiled faintly. "The galaxy will not forget this," she said. "I hope it remembers the right part," Elias replied. "What part is that?" she asked. "That strength doesn't come from taking," he said. "It comes from knowing you don't have to." She considered that. "Is that what being human means?" she asked. Elias looked at the stars. "It's what we try for," he said. Far away, in halls of power and rooms of war, the story spread. Not of a human who claimed a princess, but of a human who waited. And in waiting taught the galaxy a new definition of power. Not dominance, not destiny, but choice. And the galaxy would never be the same again.